Welcome to Soul Elevation, guiding your ascension to new heights. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin. I'm excited for you to hear this episode with Masati. You're going to be filled with wonder as he describes his 3 near-death experiences and what they revealed to him about the nature of consciousness. I loved how he described the ways he works with people and some fascinating examples of how he's helped people to heal. He even threw in some insights about me personally that surprised me. And if you're thinking he just knows me really well, pay attention to the times when he calls me by the wrong name. We just met today and we started recording right away to make the most of our limited time. Masati is a visionary thought leader and the CEO and founder of Exponential Intelligence Science, a groundbreaking field focused on dimensional consciousness and human transformation. After 3 near-death experiences, he emerged with advanced insight into quantum physics, space-time, and frequency, igniting his mission to eliminate suffering and awaken consciousness. He developed Exponential Intelligence, or XI, a method that works at the core frequency level to create rapid, tangible change in health, wealth, relationships, and spirituality. For over 14 years, Masati has shared his work globally, inspiring profound shifts in human potential. Before we dive in, I want to gently invite you to explore everything available for you at karagoodwin.com. It's truly a sanctuary of support for your spiritual journey. You'll find my book, Your Authentic Awakening, a beautiful library of free guided meditations and resources to help you deepen your connection with your higher self. You can also discover the summits, workshops, and live experiences that are coming up, all created to help you expand your consciousness and connect with a community of like-hearted souls. And I want to say a heartfelt thank you for supporting the show. Your likes, comments, shares, and subscriptions genuinely help this work reach more people. When you engage, you help uplift the frequency of the content and make it easier for others to find these conversations. All right, let's begin. Enjoy this episode. Well, welcome, Masati. I'm so excited to have you. Thank you so much for coming on Soul Elevation.
Thanks for having me.
So you're a 3-time near-death experiencer,
Yes.
and it seems that those have delivered you into this work that you're doing today with dimensional consciousness and human transformation. So
Yes.
what can you tell us about your NDEs and how they changed you? And were you already interested in quantum science prior to those?
Just going backwards, I don't know if I was interested in quantum science because that's in my early young adulthood, 20s, 30s. So, and that was after my first near-death experience. So it might be, um, a crossing of those two concepts. But the biggest thing on my near-death experiences, I've had 3 of them, and uh, I've used those near-death experiences to say allow me to quantum leap into higher levels of consciousness, because that's where intelligence turns into wisdom. So the first near death allowed me to understand, the concepts that we are, say, much grander. I could experience it physically, that we are much grander than who we are. It allowed it allowed me to see, and this is what I share today with individuals, throughout the world, is that, hey, the problems that you face today, the individual that you are today, that's only a very limited version. I would say about 2% of your, say, possibilities. The grandness is back here in the consciousness that we haven't tapped into. The second near death allowed me the mechanics or the science on how to say bring that consciousness or the possibilities of one, like healing, wealth without sacrifice, fantastic relationships, or that higher connection. So bringing that into physical form, what is the science behind it? And this is what I've called exponential intelligence metascience. So it's an overlying science structure that, well, literally defines and helps fine tune or helps fill in the gaps and holes of, say, the current sciences that we have today. So that was the second near death. And then the third near death allowed me to uh, become a mastery level individual, helping transform individuals' lives. And I don't do the healing, I don't do the transformation. I awaken, jumpstart, say your experience, so you can, cure yourself of whatever that you need to cure yourself of. So.
So what can you share with us about the experiences themselves and some of what you experienced on the other side?
Oh, sure. So on the first near death, uh, I was 22, 20, yeah, about 22 years old. And, I really wanted to understand, say, the concept of life, the potential of who we are, and I think that was a precursor. It allowed me to, understand, religion, for example, because I wanted to know the other side before, I had the near death. And, I thought religions was a good place. I thought spirituality, was a fantastic place to, seek, because that's where people go, right, to understand the higher order. But, that didn't, that had it gave me a lot of, say, more questions than it answered, and it didn't really work out well because, if you're enlightened spiritually or religiously, you would have, say, a really good life, right? Fantastic life. But again, they don't. On the flip side, I went towards, wealth. If you make a lot of money, then you'll be okay. But both sides really, they feel hollow. And you look at people who are on both sides, and they're hollow. They have the same problems as everybody else. So I wanted to solve that solution. So, and I really wanted to know it that bad, where the universe spoke up. It's like, "Are you sure?" And it's like, "Yeah, I really want to know." And that's where I had my first near death. This was a warehouse accident. It was a college job. I used to work at a warehouse unloading rail cars. And inside they had these moving walls, that kept the product in place. And the wall was stuck. So I managed, to climb up and just keep pulling on that wall while my team members were pulling underneath. And then all of a sudden this wall gave way. And as it gave way, it just slid all the way across. And it was a heavy wall. And what stopped it was my jaw. I got crushed. My jaws got crushed.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I think if it was the neck, I'd probably not be here to tell you the story. But my jaws got crushed, and almost instantly, I would say, uh, obviously, I think I blacked out, but almost instantly, I had separated from my body, and I was seeing my physical form dangling there. And the first thing that came through my mind is like, God, you're so limited, to what you could be. And I'm going, and then I thought to myself, I was like, well, wait a second, what am I doing floating? Because I was full conscious. What am I doing floating here and my body's over there? I didn't understand the concept because I've never had that reference point, of, say, death, obviously. And so, and then almost instantly, as soon as I said that, I realized it's like, oh, I'm dead. And then it's like you were sad for just a mere bit, less than a moment. And then because you get to see, it's like, oh my God, my potential that I have. And I never really looked back. It's like, oh, yeah, it's sad, but over here, this is who I really am. Kind of like a kid in a candy store. It's like, whoa, that's what who we really are. And it was so beautiful, magnified by, say maybe a million times the amount of love, the amount of brilliance, the amount of, well, anything. You are complete. Um, so in that case, some people see the tunnel of light, for example. The tunnel of light. Some people see where their parents, their loved ones, welcome them in. I went to the level where a lot of people, it's a life review, but it's not a life review the way most people go, like you did good, you did bad, or you're going to heaven or hell. In that situation, Meredith, it was a life relive. And this is my first idea of concepts of, say, quantum mechanics, quantum physics, because I was still conscious, but I was living my life uh, from zero, maybe a little bit before then, zero to the time I died. So as I lived through it, it wasn't a review; it was a live through. And then as I stepped out, I'm going, wait a second, how did I live, 22 years in just mere seconds? And that where it was like time dilation, time distortion, all those say concepts of say quantum physics started to really come into me. I'm going, wait a second, because it, every moment it wasn't compressed, it wasn't fast forward, and I'm going, wait a second, how did time work? At this level, I'm going, this is really cool. I just lived 22 years in just a mere second. I go, what are the possibilities? And then the concept comes in of yeah, you can stay here because it's like I want to stay here, but should I go back? And as soon as I said, should I go back, or you hear a voice that says you can go back. As soon as I said that, I was back into my body for a brief instant, and then I blacked out, and I found myself in the hospital with my jaws wired shut. So,
Wow.
and it was a beautiful experience. Afterwards, I could see colors that weren't here. I could hear sounds. I could see people's like frequencies. So this is where I got introduced into, say, the frequency world of what renders this reality.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was your first one. And then you said your second one
Mhm.
had different elements to it where you were able to kind of go a little bit further in your quantum understanding.
Yes. So the second one was a drowning accident. We were in Belize. We were inner tubing, and it was a rainy season. We shouldn't have been in the river. So I had my kids, and the guide goes, "Well, you got to keep locked together. We're all as a group. We have a bunch of inner tubes. You got to stay together, otherwise we'll get pulled into tributaries, dangerous tributaries, waterfalls. Cenotes, basically a hole in the river." That goes underground. And lo and behold, somehow I got unlocked from the group, and they went one way, the safe way. I went towards, say, this waterfall. But before I hit the waterfall, there was a cenote, basically a huge rock with a hole, water going pouring in, kind of like almost a man-sized cover hole. I got sucked out of my inner tube and into this hole. And I was, just floating into, the depths of Earth. It was probably a lava tube, now filled with water. And I'm going, damn, here we go again. That familiar feeling of separation of my body came through. And I try to, crawl out, but the water pressure was so great. And this is where you go, okay, you know, I can't hold my breath forever. So it's like you say goodbye to your loved ones, and and go, gosh, it's really sad. I thought I'd had a full life, and then from there, I just separated from my body. I just watched it go tumble into, the depths of the earth, and I could still feel the coolness of the water. I went through the rocks, which was amazing. It's like, how did I go through rock? And then through the water, the river, and then just ascended into brilliance again. No time, no space, and this is where I, went through the tunnel of light. There's about 12, 13, say, layers. At the end, it seems like you shouldn't be coming back. You graduated, you cleansed yourself of distortions of time and space. So at that level, this is where you have access. You are complete spirit. And spirit, in a sense, basically a timeless being, not, say, a religion or spirituality, but a timeless being that has limitless potential. You don't even have an idea of, say, physical form anymore. That's how grand you are. And so I was literally sitting on the edge of space and time, and then no time. And this is where I could like peer through, and this is where you could, you could access well, information, all the possibilities that ever was, is, and shall be. You have access to, because since there's no time, they all exist in the realm of possibilities. I call it the universal database, and I'm going, wow. So whatever you touch, not touch, but whatever you like put your intention towards, it becomes a reality for you, which is really cool. You could go to France. You have that essence and presence of being in France, or you could go somewhere else, or you could have you could taste like a food or whatever, and you just feel without physical existence, like eating that food. It's like, wow, how does that work? Kind of like a dream state, but you have control of it. And this is where it's like, wow, how does that work? How does, so that access point that I have, somehow on the second near death, I managed to keep that connection going.
Mm.
And this is where I can access individuals, say records, not Akashic records, but actually access individuals. So I can read you, like an open book. Basically, I can read anybody. You can name me, oh, my friend. I can read anybody and see, what's holding them back, what's not real about, what they think their lives is about, almost instantly. And then not only read them, but then also help, rewire their frequency blueprint. So that was a second near death. So it allowed me to come back here with, say, the logic or the physics on how this reality works. And the biggest thing over the years, over the 14 years and I don't know, 100,000 client sessions that I've done, that second near death has proven to me over and over and over again that there is no, say, exceptions to the rule. Current science, even quantum science, the way they study it, they there's a lot of, say, holes in their theories. There's a lot of exceptions to the rule. Nature doesn't work like that, or natural intelligence doesn't work like that. Gravity works one way. There's no exceptions to the rule. It's all first principle level science. So over the 14 years, literally just pulling that science into this physical reality.
Wow. Well, I want to learn a little bit more about what that's like for you um, as you connect with people and the book, as you say, and
Yeah,
how you rewire and things. But while we're on the roll of your NDs, I know people love to hear about people's near death
yeah.
experiences, and
Mhm.
so let me give you an opportunity to share what happened with the third
Okay.
NDE.
Yeah, the third one was just a few years ago, actually, and I liken it to the first one was a apprentice experience on how, say, physics works. The second near death was more of a journeyman experience. You become familiar with the logic, the physics. You become really adept at your craft. The third one was mastery level, just like really owning it, really shifting. And this was the third near death was I was in Peru. We were doing an event there, and it was around COVID time. I probably had COVID. We were hiking. I probably drained myself of all the minerals. So by the time we came back down, gosh, my body had like basically no minerals left, and my body just like shut down. And they rushed me to the hospital. I didn't know what was on at the time, but just imagine your battery power and just like you're reaching literally zero. Nothing was functioning, not even my brain functions or anything. And this is where I was in the hospital bed, waiting to get into, a scan. And my son was there and he was like over me, just like praying for me, holding me down. And again, I separated from my body and I was just like hovering over, my body, and looking at my son. It's like, gosh, I hope this doesn't, inflict harm, or distort him, So I was praying for that, which, and then I just, went into almost like a DMT experience. I don't know if people have had that, but you see the brilliance. You see the house of God. You see it's like, oh my God, the kingdom of God, as they call it, and it's just like pure brilliance, and it's like I was accepted. And it's like it was just gorgeous, and it's like in that realm I fell asleep, and then I found myself reawakened. The interesting part is like they did a brain scan and it was like mush. My brain was just like I was gone. And then like 20 minutes later, they did a brain scan because of the altitude in Peru, right? They want to see if you know, busted some,
Blood vessel or something.
capillaries and so on. So 20 minutes later, after they, supplied me with intravenous minerals and whatever they did, it was a miracle, I think. They they did a scan again, and it was like a pristine brain, not of a 65-year-old, but of almost like a 25, 30-year-old brain.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is where from there, uh, my body, my organs, my heart, and everything is of a much, say, younger man than, say, my current age. So this is where, the concepts of like, you don't have to age like society or your parents or anybody. So those ideas are like physically understanding that we can break the system and age differently, or again eliminate a disease at a very high level, just like nature does.
Yeah.
Nature doesn't look for cures outside of themselves. Nature looks for cures internally, and that's what I do. So
Mhm.
today, so um, yeah, it's just an amazing experience. Outside of my kids, probably the best three experiences that I've had.
Yeah.
So
Amazing. Thank you for sharing.
thank you.
So let's go back to that the records, the books.
Mhm.
What is it like when you access somebody's record? And then what is it like because you mentioned then you're able to kind of rewire to
Yes.
help them to connect with their highest potential. So what is that like for you?
Yeah. So imagine that you're a projector, right? You're pure light. Your spirit, whatever you want to call it. Call it your timeless self, or that you're of no time. But and if you're in the quantum mechanics, so you have like a sea of consciousness, which is really calm. But for you to experience this reality in time and space, you'd have to create ripples into the fabric of time and space. So how do you do that? So that would be your inception frequency, or again, your timeless self creating some kind of, say, again, a beginning. Kind of like, you've got, say, a guitar, and who's strumming the guitar, right? Who's creating that noise? Who's creating that sound, right? So that's the person strumming that guitar chord. So in that case, that would be your higher self. So, and that creates ripples in space and time, and those ripples, they're so precisionally fine tuned that it renders your body here. So when I see you, there's four different, say, arenas that you render, say, the tone in this example, a guitar example, the tone of who you are, your personal frequency signature. And that frequency signature is literally based on, your family genetics, right? From your grandparents, great grandparents, and so on. You're basically a cumulative total of your family, millions of people actually, if you go 18 generations back. So that's a lot of distortion that humans carry, right? And then there's generational patterns, the time frame that you were born, Generation Z. Even if you don't know each other, you all have, say, certain habits because you were born around that realm. And this probably coincides to people who, believe in astrology and so on. If you're born under a certain sign, or in this case, certain generation, you have certain tendencies, right? And then the third element is societal norms. Like, for example, people who were born in the Depression, even if they were wealthy, they would still have, say, a resonance of, say, a depression, or, lack or something like that. And then the fourth component or ingredient would be your, life experience, or even, previous lifetime experiences, however, you define that. So those four ingredients create you. And then people think that that is them. But then, like, I find out with my first near death, it's like, wait a second, that's just, the ingredients that, I wasn't awakened enough to understand. So this is why I think my life is the way it is. I guess the importance, Meredith, is that
My
people.
name's Kara, by the
I'm sorry,
way.
Kara. I'm so
That's
sorry.
okay. That's okay.
Um, so I guess the importance of this is like people think that they're broken because of what they're, say, brought into this life, and that's not really true. You know, you were made of pure essence, just like I found out. It's like pure brilliance, pure identity of who you are, right?
Mm.
So in that case, this is what I read. I read those four ingredients and I go, "Whoa, you've got too much of this family value structure. You don't have to age like your parents do." So some people might call it the Akashic record. It's more than that. It's literally your operating system on how you render yourself. Okay?
Mm.
My abilities are more like AI, where AI, sees an algorithm, and from that one algorithm, it understands you. So if you wrote a paragraph and gave it to AI, it'll come back with, say, a pretty close approximation on who you are. So I see your algorithms. I don't see moments like a psychic or anything like that. I see
Mhm.
the patterns that you're running, and I've done enough sessions where I go, "Oh, she's running this pattern, and this is what's going to, happen, or this is what's happened for them." So,
Mhm.
so once you see that, through frequency work, uh, which is beyond space and time, you can edit somebody's pattern. So it's almost like giving a near death to that person, where they can separate their identity from space and time. They disconnect, you reprogram them, and then kind of reawaken them, so to speak.
And is that happening through discussion, through kind of a session where you're getting to know each other? Is that happening energetically and it's more of an experience?
Yeah, it's a little bit different than, say, energetically. We all have these vibes come through, but like, for example, I can read your patterns. You don't have to tell me anything about you, and that's really key because most people don't understand why they're stuck in the first place. So it's not therapy work or anything like that. So when I see people, especially if my abilities are, say, on. Usually I dim them down because it's hard to have conversations sometimes because I see so much I don't hear what you're saying. Get it?
Mhm.
Because and you're always sending these frequencies out.
Mhm.
So, but most people, they're subconscious to the frequencies. They just react to the frequencies somebody's sending out. I'm an observer of the frequencies, and this is what I teach people. You become an observer of what somebody is sending out, and then we all have these abilities, by the way. So I see the patterns that you run. You don't have to. You can tell me. It's like, oh, my daughter. And you don't have to tell me your name or anything, but just it's like I go through IP addresses basically. You know your daughter, so I can go through you and understand, say, what's happening to your daughter,
Mhm.
without you telling me anything. So
Mhm.
just literally accessing system files.
That's fascinating. Wow.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
very
what
accurate,
is
by the way. So,
that's amazing. And so what is it like for the client as they get rewired, or do you have any stories that you want to share in terms of how you've helped somebody in their transitioning into a higher state of being?
oh, absolutely. I mean, we get thousands of like testimonials. People, and a lot of our clients, um, um, you know, come from a last resort. They've tried medicine, they've tried everything. It's like, gosh, I can't figure it out. What's wrong with my life? I don't know why we're sick. So again, I don't claim to cure anybody, but so for the client, basically, some people, they're very sensitive to frequencies, so they might feel the frequencies that are, say, shifting in them. Not my frequencies, but they'll feel a change. You're kind of sensitive, by the way. You're more sensitive
Mhm.
in the gut area, from what
Yeah,
I'm
I've been feeling in my solar plexus, and then
yeah,
when you started talking about the family or the ancestral, then it was like, oh,
yeah,
it's the back of my heart now, and I'm like, oh, there's all kinds of stuff getting activated as we're sitting
yeah,
here.
exactly. So that's basically a session. So while I'm talking to you, and even your audience will probably like feel things as they listen to this. Okay?
Hmm.
So basically, how that is that you know I've gone. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've gone bankrupt. I've gotten divorced. I've gotten ill. I've gotten all these things, and basically figured out how life works. and come out of it, a lot better, right? So it's like when you see my frequencies or hear, say my voice, and this is how, say, communication works. What'll happen is like you are, say, encoding me and reading me at a very deep level, right? And I'm sending out these vibes. It's like, oh, he figured out how life works, and then this helps you remember or helps you access how you should actually be without the distortions. So as I'm speaking, for example, your whole, midsection, I mean, you specifically, your midsection and all the way up, this whole area is like, feels like it's opening, so because you're always like, say, closed and reserved quite a bit. And there's a reason for it, but that we can get into maybe later if you'd like. But so in an experience, some people who are sensitive actually will feel, some people like pass out, like on events, I touch them and they just like pass out because their identity changes so rapidly that it's like they don't know who they are. Um, but I guess it's amazing results, and it doesn't take decades. Usually, like maybe a 10-minute session changes. Like this one girl, young girl, she was about 10 years old, and she had 6 doctors. She was on, gosh, 7 or 8 psychotic medications, and uh, she'd be a normal little girl. Then all of a sudden, she'd be running after her mom with a knife. It's like that kind of, that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Um, and the lady, we were having an outdoor event, and this lady knew about me. She wasn't even, and she brought her daughter. It's like, "Boss, can you please help me?" She's just crying. And, I talked to the girl for like 10, 15 minutes, the same way, but obviously, higher intensity frequencies. About an hour later, I talked to her for like 10, 15 minutes, but an hour later, it's like the little girl had severe headaches, and, they had to go home. The next day, uh, the mother calls back and it's like, what did you do to my girl? I got my girl back, my young little girl.
Wow.
And ever since then, she was a dropout, back then and all that, straight A's. She started her own cookie business. She's on the internet, and she's a leader. And I could tell you about, the CEO. He's gone to, Tony Robbins' book Life Force, and what is it, Fountain Life, and all those high level, clinics, and this guy came to me as a last resort. He had like 8 months to live, with heart issues, and his daughter, she had heart issues. They were actually doing a transplant if they didn't find out, a heart transplant. So, um, and a couple sessions, 3, 4 months into it, they got better and better. The Mayo Clinic tested them, and better results. And her heart is fine. She doesn't think that she has. Um, she doesn't need a transplant anymore, which is quite amazing. And also the gentleman, he's still alive and he's younger than ever. And running a multi-billion-dollar business, he's happier than ever. He's not burnt out. He's not under anxiety. So
Wow.
I mean, and those aren't really extreme. Those are like literally normal, say, shifts where people cure themselves of stage 4 cancers and so on.
Wow.
They've gone in with tumors and they go in for the day of surgery, and they scan again to operate, and it's like, we don't see the tumors anymore. You know,
Wow.
so 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 you don't have to have extreme issues like that, but people with people who have problems with money, for example, obviously there's a frequency behind it why you don't have money, even if you're a millionaire. It's like, Moss, I don't have money. Why is that? Right? So you release the underlying frequency, and it's duplicatable. Again, hundreds of thousands of sessions. It's not just random events or anything like that. I can create that as long as the person is willing to, say, shift and transform, and most people are.
That's amazing. I'm so happy that you brought up the vocal side of it too, because since the first moment that I heard your voice, I was like, "Whoa, there's a lot in his voice. Like there is so much that you're carrying in your voice."
Mhm.
I wasn't necessarily going to bring it up, but then you brought
Yeah.
it up. I
Thank
have
you.
you noticed or have you observed or has anybody else observed over your NDEs, have you brought, is it like that you're bringing more into your being and it's being carried through your voice? Or
Yes.
has that, I mean, I'm just curious if it's changed over time.
No. Yeah, it's changed over time. It's really crazy. Every time, I cycle upwards with my abilities, which means like in the past, when I first started, I used to work on people. I used to meditate for half an hour, and then work on somebody for another hour and a half or so on. Now I don't have to meditate. I'm just like on, and I can work on somebody in 5 minutes,
Mm,
with the same results. But over the year, every time I cycle up, my voice changes. It's kind of
mm,
crazy. And then, obviously the presence when people see me, obviously people tell me I have a presence. So that's what really say heals people. Um, and this is, I help teach surgeons or psychologists, energy workers, chiropractors, all those types of individuals to heal from that level. Your modality is fine, but true healing comes from, the frequency of who that person is. And then whatever that you do physically works a lot better for, your clients.
yeah.
Or if you're a parent, you resonate at a higher frequency.
Mhm. I love that. I mean, I've felt that to certain degrees even within myself and even rather recently where I'm like, okay, my voice, I don't even know if it sounds different. Listeners of the podcast may be able to know that better than me.
Yeah,
It's always I think it's hard to hear your own voice. A lot of people don't like to hear their voice recorded. A lot of people take like
absolutely.
podcasters, it'll take them time to be able to listen to their own voice.
Right.
I'm through that, but I can feel, I feel
Mhm.
the difference,
Yeah.
and I have felt it within the last few weeks too. So I'm interested in what you're saying for multiple reasons.
Yeah, that's the frequency. You're that guitar string which is shifting. You're pure of who you are. You understand yourself more, right? And so that guitar string, it doesn't have the crustiness basically on it, and you're vibrating at your own, say, frequency tone.
Yeah.
And that's basically what we do is literally, get rid of all the crust from, generational patterns and, those ingredients that I said. And then you're resonating at who you should be, not, according to society or other people's standards.
Yeah, I love that.
So,
So you've shared a lot with us,
mhm,
and I know you have your exponential intelligence, and I
mhm,
like it. I think that everything you've shared with us is related to that.
yes.
But is there anything else that you want to share in terms of specifically exponential intelligence and how it transforms lives?
Yeah, well, that's the science that I use. I've dubbed it exponential intelligence with an X, not with an E. And you know, over the years, when I first started, I thought it was more, like, oh, this is more spiritual knowledge, because I didn't know what it was. And then later on, I started to realize it's like, wait, this is the physics of the universe. So, and again, quantum side is, you have Newtonian physics, uh, and it worked out great for a while until it broke down into as we got into the quantum realm, small particles, and then so the introduction of the quantum physics started to come because it couldn't explain why smaller objects behave differently, right? So we got quantum science, and unfortunately, a lot of scientists still don't believe in quantum science, which is kind of crazy, right? That belief system. And then, so from there, exponential intelligence meta science would sit underneath quantum science. So this bridges the gap between no time, say, physics, and into time bound physics, where you have particles, you have density. So where I work is that bridge layer of who you are. And I know it sounds kind of theoretics, but not really. There's an intelligence that say renders you before you were a single cell before you even had a brain, right? There was obviously a blueprint somewhere. There was an intelligence encoded in, say, the clouds of, say, life, for example, the clouds of the universe that rendered you here. So I help you access your original blueprint, if that makes sense. So that's the
Mhm.
level of science, that XI is about.
That's
Um,
beautiful. So,
yeah.
if there are people who, because I love diving into the quantum
Mhm.
science and consciousness, this is totally my jam. But
Mhm.
for some people, they don't feel a resonance with like science, or they may not think like, oh, I don't understand the quantum or whatever.
Oh,
Is that a barrier?
no, that's a beautiful question. And here's the problem with that. Scientists look at just the hard physics. If you can't measure it, then it's not real. You know, but there's a lot of things in the universe that can't be measured, and it's real because we, we're controlled by, that. And then so that's that science, and then they don't believe in that. Although there's emerging. And then there's the spiritual people. It's like, oh gosh, I've had all these experiences. So, but none of them are grounded. The scientist isn't grounded into the higher aspects of who they are, the higher aspects of physics. The spiritual people or the religious, it's just like, I just believe in some power out there. And, that power, if I believe it, it'll help my life. It's like, well, no, because you need physical logic here to sustain yourself. So both are missing. So XI literally is about bringing the two together. So you don't have to understand it, you just have to remember it. For example, are you aware of how your heartbeat works? Or, all the things that happen naturally for you to be here, the thousands of different chemical functions, the way you
Gravity.
breathe,
Yeah.
gravity,
Hmm.
physics. It's like, you're not, how to use all those things. You're not necessarily, an expert at it. You know how to use your phone or a computer. You're not necessarily an expert on how it was built, right?
Yeah.
But you still use it. So basically, it's like, you don't have to, unless you want to, unless there's people like you that, gosh, I really want to know the science. Right? But for the most people, you already know the science. So I just have to help you say, take it to a higher level of understanding where this is where you can start to command your life rather than having it on autopilot. Simple.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. I love
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So I've it's enjoyed this so much. This has been amazing, and I'm sorry that we don't have more time because I've
yeah,
got a
absolutely.
whole page of questions here, but
Yeah,
I've gotten so much from this discussion. Can you tell people how they can connect with you
sure.
and, a first step that they might be able to take?
Yes, you can go to the XI code, so THEXI code.com. That's the main website. You can go to YouTube and put in XI Masati, Masati, and there's just so many. I do a weekly live show, and it's free. Anybody can join, or you can, obviously you can listen to the recordings, and it basically explains on how life works. So, and it explains on how life works and what you can do about it. On there, I actually scan individuals if you're interested in more of my abilities and how they work. I scan individuals live, so you can see that. And it's a really first good step. It's all free for you. You can pick any subject that you want. I'm sure there's a video on it for you. So, yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I'm just fascinated in the short time that we've been together that you even picked up on that I have a daughter and you didn't go into the ins and outs, but I mean,
Yeah.
that was something that
Mhm.
we have not like we just started recording right away. You don't really
Yeah.
know me. So it's
I didn't
like
even know your name. I thought it was Meredith because that's the
yeah.
emails that I got. I go, oh, okay, sorry. Yes. So, yeah, I pick up, pretty much everything except, your personal files. I don't need to know that. But yeah, I pick up a lot of things that people aren't aware of.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
fascinating.
And even like this with you, hun, you'll actually start to shift because you adapt to, say, the highest, say, environment. So it's not my environment, but you'll shift from this conversation. And I think many of your listeners will shift. Even if it's a recording, you'll start to see, it's like, gosh, I feel different. So
Yeah.
that's how, you're, that's already pre-programmed, by the way. You're already, say, pre-programmed to go to higher levels. It's called evolution. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time and for everything that you're doing for people. It's really been a joy to get to know you, and I'm grateful to have you on.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Soul Elevation. If someone in your life would be inspired or uplifted by what you heard today, please take a moment to share it with them. These are the kinds of conversations that ripple out and elevate collective consciousness. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the powerful episodes ahead. Your presence, energy, and support truly help amplify this mission of raising frequency and anchoring in a more awakened humanity. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you for the next episode of Soul Elevation.